Welcome back, everyone. We are diving into another fascinating story from Islamic history. This time, we'll be exploring the lives of Ali and Fatima,
Hmm.
drawing insights from a lecture by Dr. Omar Suleiman. I think you'll agree that we often view figures like Ali and Fatima as almost larger than life,
Yeah.
but this deep dive reveals their human side, their love, their struggles,
Right.
and their unwavering faith.
It is remarkable how often we forget that these were real people
Yeah,
with real challenges, just
yeah,
like us.
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And to really highlight this point, Dr. Suleiman starts with a question that I thought was just brilliant
Okay.
and really kind of stopped me in my tracks when I heard it.
Okay.
Imagine Ali and Fatima asking the Prophet, peace be upon him,
Right.
who do you love more, me or them?
Wow, that's a powerful question. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something a lot of us have probably wondered about at some point in
Yeah.
our own families.
Yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Like, where do we stand
Exactly.
in the hearts of those we love?
And the prophet's answer to that is
Yeah.
just so insightful.
Oh, it's so good. So he says,
Yeah.
Fatima is more beloved to me,
Okay.
but Ali is more precious.
Beloved and precious. I mean, those are both very powerful
Right.
expressions of affection, but there's a nuance there,
Yes,
isn't
that's
there?
true. Yes, absolutely. What do you think, like, what's the difference between beloved and precious?
Well, I think there's the sense that his love for Fatima was very tender,
Mhm.
almost protective,
Yes.
while his connection with Ali, I think, was filled with a lot of awe and respect, like a mentor towards a cherished student.
Yes. Yes, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think about how love can be expressed in different ways, even within the same family, right?
Absolutely.
And this sets the stage for their marriage,
Okay.
which, as we know, wasn't without its challenges.
Right, right. They faced a lot in those early years.
They did.
Distance from the prophet being one, and perhaps even more daunting, they went through a period of really intense poverty.
Yeah. And actually, that's a good place to start because, you know, the prophet wanted them to live closer to him,
Okay.
but she felt too shy to ask for more loan, even though he had been given a lot by the community.
Oh, wow.
So I thought that was really interesting. It really speaks to his humility, doesn't it?
It does.
That he didn't want to be seen as favoring his own family.
Right, right. Even though it was his daughter and his son-in-law.
Yes. And it really shows that leadership isn't about personal gain,
Right.
but about serving others.
Absolutely.
But because of this, Ali and Fatima ended up living kind of far away,
Okay.
and their poverty was quite severe. In fact, Dr. Suleiman describes Fatima with blisters on her hands
Oh my God.
from grinding grain, and Ali suffering from back pain due to, all the manual labor he was doing.
Yeah, that's a really powerful image.
Yeah,
It reminds us that even those closest to the prophet went through real struggle.
very human struggles.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
sometimes we forget that and we
Yes.
think, oh, well, if they were so close to the prophet,
Yeah.
their life must have been easy.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that trap.
Mm.
But it really reinforces that
Wrong.
faith doesn't mean a life free of hardship.
Absolutely. I think their story is a powerful counter narrative to that idea
Mm-hmm.
that, if you're faithful, then everything's going to be easy. It really highlights resilience
Yes.
and finding strength in your connection to God, especially when things are hard.
I think that is such a relevant lesson for today.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting is they hesitated to even ask for help,
Mm-hmm.
even from the prophet himself.
Mm-hmm.
Fatima was embarrassed to approach her father.
That's so relatable.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, even though she was going through so much,
Right.
she still felt that sense of, I don't want to burden him.
Yeah, and it also shows that the prophet himself wasn't living a life of luxury while his own daughter struggled. I mean, they were all experiencing that shared sense of hardship.
Yeah, and that really highlights how important simplicity is.
Yes.
And recognizing that material wealth,
Yeah.
it doesn't equal spiritual richness.
Exactly. And I think the prophet's response to Fatima's request really emphasizes that.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a powerful lesson for today. So she finally musters the courage
Okay.
to approach the prophet.
Yeah.
She finds him at the mosque after evening prayer.
Okay.
And when he gets back home, he can tell, like, she's upset.
Yeah.
So he immediately goes to see them. And I love how Dr. Suleiman points out the prophet's sensitivity here,
Hmm.
because he tells them to stay seated even though their house was probably a mess.
Right.
But he wanted to put them at ease and make them feel comfortable.
And then Fatima hesitantly explains their situation.
Yes.
And the prophet offers a solution that might seem surprising at first.
It does.
Instead of just giving them money,
Yeah.
he advises them to recite Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, and Allahu Akbar a certain number of times before they go to sleep.
And this is where I think things get really interesting.
Right.
Because, it might seem like a simple ritual,
Right.
but it's so much more than that.
Absolutely. There's such profound spiritual and psychological depth there.
Mhm.
It's about gratitude, acknowledging the blessings in our lives, even when things are hard.
It's about shifting your perspective
Exactly.
from lack to abundance.
And Ali really took this advice to heart.
He did.
We're told that he never missed a night of this practice. And despite their lack of material wealth, they started to feel this sense of abundance.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful because it shows that true contentment comes from our connection with God.
It's about recognizing that even when we're struggling, we still have so much to be thankful for.
Absolutely. And it's not just reciting the words, right? It's about embodying those words through action.
What do you mean?
Well, think about the verses of Surat al-Insan.
Okay.
It describes giving food to the needy,
Right.
the orphans and the captives, even when you yourself desire it. And many scholars believe that these verses were actually revealed about Ali and Fatima.
Really?
Yeah, because despite their own hunger, they gave away their only loaf of bread and water to a poor family that came to them for help.
Wow, that's incredible.
That level of generosity when they were struggling themselves.
Yeah, it really is a testament to their faith.
It is.
And their commitment to living out the values of Islam.
Absolutely.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, how often do we prioritize our own comfort over the needs of others?
That's a good question.
Especially when we have more than enough.
It challenges us to reflect on our priorities for sure and think about how we can be more compassionate and generous in our everyday lives.
It's like their story is a call to action.
Yeah.
Not just to appreciate them, but to actually live out those values ourselves.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that their life wasn't all hardship and struggle. Dr. Suleiman talks about the lighter moments in their household, particularly the Prophet's playful interactions with his grandsons, Hassan and Hussein.
Oh, I love those stories.
Oh, they're so sweet.
Yeah.
Like the one where the Prophet prolongs his prostration while Hassan's playing on his back.
Oh, it's just such a tender image.
Isn't it?
Really shows the Prophet's playful nature.
Yeah.
And the deep love he had for his family.
Absolutely. And it's so relatable. I mean, it reminds us that, spirituality doesn't have to be all serious and somber.
Right. It can be joyful and lighthearted.
Exactly. And those little moments of love and affection, they really create lasting memories and shape character.
Yeah. And it wasn't just through his actions, right?
Right.
The Prophet explicitly said that loving Hassan and Hussein is like loving him.
Wow. That's a profound statement.
Really emphasizes the importance of family, doesn't it?
It does. It speaks to how interconnected love is and how our actions impact those around us.
And it sets an example
Yeah.
for how Muslims should treat their families.
Right. And it wasn't just his grandsons.
Yeah.
His love for Fatima was evident in his actions, too.
Yeah. How so?
Well, like, whenever he returned from a trip, he always made a point of checking in with her first.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a small gesture, but it really shows how he prioritized his family, even amidst his leadership responsibilities.
It's so beautiful.
It is.
And it actually becomes even more significant when we consider the incident where there was a proposed marriage for Ali that Fatima wasn't very happy about.
Right, right.
Yeah.
This is where we see the complexities of societal customs and the importance of empathy.
So after the conquest of Mecca, some tribal elders proposed that Ali should marry Fatima. But this Fatima was the daughter of Abu Jahl.
And that's significant, right?
Okay, why?
Well, because Abu Jahl was a prominent figure in Mecca, and although he opposed Islam initially, this suggestion was about solidifying alliances after the conflict.
Okay, so it was a strategic move.
Exactly.
But caused Fatima a lot of distress.
Yeah, and the Prophet, being the compassionate father, he was recognized her pain.
It's important to remember that the Prophet always upheld justice and fairness.
Absolutely.
So he couldn't just dismiss the idea of polygamy because it was permissible in Islam.
Right.
But he also acknowledged Fatima's feelings.
He was trying to find a balance between the law and the emotional well-being of everyone involved.
It's a powerful reminder that even within religious law, there's room for compassion.
Absolutely.
And taking into consideration people's individual circumstances.
The Prophet really demonstrated that leadership isn't just about enforcing rules.
But understanding the human element and making decisions that promote well-being.
It's about the spirit of the law, not just the letter of the law.
That's a good point.
And this commitment to empathy is something we see again in another anecdote.
Okay.
This time it's a lighter one that shows Ali's playful side and their deep affection for each other.
Tell me more.
Well, there was an incident where Ali got a little jealous over Fatima using a miswak.
A miswak.
Yeah, you know, like the traditional toothbrush.
Oh, right. Okay.
So imagine that, feeling jealous over a toothbrush.
It's kind of funny.
It is, isn't it?
It's cute.
Yeah, and it speaks to how much they loved each other.
And how did Ali respond to that?
He expressed his affection and his jealousy through poetry.
Oh, wow. So even in those everyday moments, there was this beautiful expression of love.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that even amidst the serious stuff, there's always room for lightheartedness and creative ways to express our love.
And it's important to remember that their lives weren't always lighthearted.
Right.
They faced some real hardships together.
Yeah, like the Battle of Uhud, where Fatima tended to the wounded.
Right.
And they also experienced the devastating loss of their infant son.
Right.
Yeah, those were really difficult times.
They were.
And it just shows their resilience and their ability to rely on their faith to get through those tough times.
Yeah, it makes you think about what enduring love really means. It's not about avoiding hardship, but about going through it together.
Absolutely.
Supporting each other through thick and thin.
Yeah. And, you know, their story takes on this really poignant dimension when we get to the Prophet's final days and Fatima's intense grief.
This part of the lecture really got to me because it's so human.
It is.
So during the Prophet's illness, Fatima goes to visit him.
Okay.
And he's so weak.
Yeah.
He's really struggling. But when he sees her, he gathers all his strength to greet her.
Oh, wow.
And it's beautiful because it shows the depth of their bond.
It does.
He whispers something in her ear that makes her cry.
Wow.
And then whispers something else that makes her laugh.
Oh, that's powerful.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so bittersweet.
It is. It captures those complex emotions of love and loss.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that someone's about to leave this world.
And initially, Fatima refuses to tell anyone what he said.
Really?
Yeah, she says it's a secret between her and her father, which just highlights how close they were.
It does.
But later, she tells Aisha that the Prophet told her he was going to die.
Oh, wow.
And that she would be the first to follow him.
Oh, can you imagine receiving news like that?
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But also, in a way, kind of comforting.
Yeah, I guess there's a sense of knowing that you won't be separated for long.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Prophet passes away, and it has a huge impact on Fatima.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about that first Ramadan without him.
I know.
The emptiness she must have felt.
Yeah, and not long after, Fatima falls ill.
Okay.
And her final requests are really simple. She wants a modest burial at night.
It's a reflection of her humility, isn't it?
It is.
Not wanting any kind of fuss.
Yeah, and her passing is described as really peaceful. She's looking up at the heavens with a smile on her face.
That's beautiful.
It is. But Ali, of course, is devastated.
Of course he is.
And at her graveside, he recites this really heart-wrenching poem.
Oh, wow.
Just pouring out his grief.
Yeah, what does he say?
He talks about standing at her grave, calling out to her, but getting no answer.
Oh, that's so sad.
And he asks if she's forgotten all their special moments together. And then imagines her saying that she's a prisoner of the grave, her beauty consumed by the dirt.
It's such a raw expression of love and loss.
Yeah, it reminds us that even the greatest heroes experience the same human emotions that we do.
And his faith didn't diminish his grief.
Right, exactly.
It's important to remember that grief and faith, they're not mutually exclusive.
No, you don't have to choose one or the other.
Exactly. We don't have to suppress our emotions to be devout.
Yeah. And even the Prophet himself wept when his son Ibrahim died. He said it was compassion.
Right.
A natural human response. And what's inspiring is that Ali channeled his grief into action.
Yeah, what did he do?
He continued to care for their children,
Okay.
fulfilling Fatima's wishes and upholding the values they both shared.
That speaks volumes about the strength of their love.
It does.
It wasn't just a fleeting romance, but a lifelong commitment that transcended even death.
Yeah, they went through so much together.
Poverty, war,
Hmm.
the loss of loved ones.
Yeah, but it only strengthened their bond.
And their legacy continues to inspire us today.
Absolutely.
It reminds us that true fulfillment doesn't come from material things, but from our connection with God.
Yes.
And the relationships we build.
And their story teaches us about resilience, navigating hardship with grace, and the importance of compassion and generosity.
Powerful lessons.
They are.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what can we take away from Ali and Fatima's story?
I think it's a call to really examine our own priorities. How can we strengthen our own connection with God?
Yeah.
How can we prioritize our families?
And how can we be more compassionate to others?
These are questions we should all be asking ourselves.
Absolutely.
And as we conclude,
I
want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about Fatima's relationship with the Prophet.
Right.
But Fatima's own life, her piety, her wisdom, her courage, they're all worth exploring too.
Absolutely.
So I encourage you to learn more about her journey as a woman, a wife, a mother, and a devout Muslim in those early days of Islam.
Her story is truly inspiring.
And there's so much we can learn from her legacy.